Good afternoon. This is the regular meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission, Monday, July 28, 2008. It's 5 after 2. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Adrian.
Here.
Commissioner Landrigan.
Here.
Commissioner Amirian.
Here.
Commissioner Stepanian.
Here.
Chair Mardian.
Here. Report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on or before Tuesday, July 22nd, 2008, on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Item 3, introduction of new Commissioner Seda Stepanian. I'd like to introduce Seda Stepanian. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
And if you'd like to say a few words.
I'm very glad and happy to be here with every one of you. I've been a resident of Glendale for a long time, and I'm very proud to be able to serve here with you.
Thank you. Item 4, approval of minutes of June 2nd special. Any comments?
I'm looking and I can't find June 2nd minutes on my packet.
We're right behind you.
Should be behind your agenda.
You're right.
Yay.
And actually, I have made some marks on it too.
Oh. Please share.
No, just for myself.
Oh, okay.
Any questions, comments, corrections? The only thing I have, I think under discussion of commission regarding the signage, I thought I mentioned a few things myself, but you can check the record. And also discussion by commissioners, I think I also concurred with Commissioner Landrigan regarding the survey issue. And that's all. I'll take a motion.
I move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Adrian.
Yes.
Commissioner Landrigan.
Yes.
Commissioner Amirian.
Yes.
Commissioner Stepanian.
Yes.
Well, you have to abstain.
Abstain.
And Chair Mardian.
Yes. Old business, if you don't mind, colleagues, I want to take item C first, 2964 Edmonton Road, because I think that's a case that was previously continued, and I think that's an easier case to go through.
Okay, I have a brief presentation we'll fast forward to. Here we go. Okay.
I'm sorry, before we go to old business, oral communication.
Yes.
Stop. Anybody wishes to speak from the public?
Please do so.
Yeah. Okay. Oral communication is closed.
Okay, you may recall 2964 Edmonton Road, a house in Chevy Chase Canyon area. You've seen this before, considering it for a Glendale Register nomination and a Mills Act application. At the times you've considered it, there was an issue with an addition that had been made to the side of the house that contained some aluminum sash, and you asked the applicant to replace those windows with more historically appropriate windows, which the applicants have done. You also asked for changes made to the chimney. So you're looking at two things today. You're reviewing those changes that were made, deciding if you can approve those, and if so, then you will be able to continue with your consideration of the nomination to the Glendale Register and the Mills Act. So I just have a couple of quick slides to show you the results of the applicant's work. If you remember the house, it's kind of on the downslope side of a small street near the Chevy Chase Country Club, and it's a 1927 Spanish colonial that you thought had significant architectural value enough to merit placement on the Glendale Register, but you were concerned about the addition, which is this area on the left side behind the tree. Here we are placing it in the neighborhood context, and this is just to recap the dates of your previous considerations. Last time you heard this was in January, where you actually approved the design of the windows when you were looking at drawings of them. Now we're actually reviewing the installation of the windows. So this is the north facade. It's below grade, but this is on the front facade of the house. You see at the top you have an aluminum slider sash, and at the bottom you have the wood casement and fixed sash with new shutters that were installed at the same time. So you have new shutters, you have a new wood sill at the bottom of all of these openings, and then the sash itself. This is the east facade, which is also very visible from the street, and you can compare that we have pretty much the windows that you approved in the drawings are the windows that were installed. We hadn't talked much about the shutters, but they did have to change the design of the shutters because of the size of the opening slightly changed with the sill. So I believe the applicants went all out on making sure that this looked historically appropriate. This is the rear facade of the house. There are two windows you can see in the left-hand photo, and then the new sash in the two right pictures. In addition to the windows, you are also looking at the chimney, the condition at the top of the chimney. At the top left picture, you see the unfinished sheet metal cap, and this was a new chimney that was installed by the applicant. So the entire chimney assembly, the firebox inside the house, as well as the cap, were kind of a unit that was installed together. The applicant talked to the installer and found out that they couldn't continue the warranty on the assembly if they changed out this chimney cap, fire arrest, or spark arrestor at the top. So you had approved in this situation where it couldn't be taken out without violating the warranty, you approved the painting of the chimney cap to kind of come close to the color of the terracotta tile, kind of darken it up a little bit and make it look a little less industrial. And the applicant has done that, and this is the result up close at the top and from out in the street at the bottom. And the applicant is here if you have any specific questions.
Any specific questions to the applicant? Mr. Martin? Welcome.
I don't know if you do have any questions, but I've done my best to try to...
Just state your name.
John Martin, for the record. I've done my best to try to meet the requirements that you set forth, and I hope you're satisfied.
We're very satisfied. We appreciate the work that you've done this far. That's my comment.
I totally agree. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I may add, your suggestion is very well taken on the cap, the color
Yeah,
of it.
but I did go to see the building this morning, actually. I am very impressed with the work that you have done. It is done very well. You don't see any patches on the stucco, and when time comes, I am ready to recommend approval of what you have done and also recommend to the City Council.
Okay. Stepania, comments?
No
Australia?
comments.
Thank you.
Yes, so...
In
Make a
that case,
motion.
we need two motions, one for the Glendale Register and a vote, and then one for the Mills Act and a
I
vote.
demand for both of them.
Not at the same time.
Or not at the... I would recommend to approve the changes done as per Commission's recommendation.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Adrian,
Yes.
Commissioner Landrigan.
Yes.
Commissioner Amirian,
Yes.
Commissioner Estepanian, and Chair Mardian.
Yes. And we need another motion?
I would like to move that we nominate to the Glendale Register of Historic Resources the application to enter into a Mills Act contract.
Actually, was your last vote for the Glendale Register?
No, it was for
Just
the
for
new windows
approving
and
the
paint.
changes? Okay.
Right.
Yeah, if you do the Glendale Register first and then the Mills Act, we'll be totally...
Oh, so there's
Official.
3 actions?
You didn't need to vote on the first one, but
All
since you
right,
did...
well, how about I just do the Historic Resources application?
Great.
That's good. Roll call, please.
Clarify it for me before the roll call. What happened here?
Are we making them,
We're making one for the Historic Resources application, that it go to council, is that correct?
Yeah, you're making a recommendation to City Council that they list this on the Glendale Register.
Okay, how about the Mills Act?
The second
That's the
one
second.
is you're recommending, City Council also needs to approve that, so you're recommending to City Council that they approve the Mills Act application.
In the past, have we separated them, or we have done it
And
together?
since I've been here, we've separated at least a few times. I'm not sure if you always have.
Okay, fine.
I think we've done it both ways.
Fine.
But
Then I second the motion.
roll call, please.
Commissioner
Yes.
Adrian,
yes,
Commissioner Landrigan,
Aye.
Commissioner Amirian,
Aye.
Commissioner Estepanian, and Chair Mardian.
Yes. Next item, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then we need the Mills Act vote.
I'm confused.
Go ahead,
now.
you.
All right, I
started. Go ahead.
nominate
Yes, please.
that I'm looking for it here because I thought we were through with it. I'm sorry. Consideration of nomination and review by the City Council to approve entering into a Mills Act contract on 2964 Edmonton Road.
All right.
I second the motion.
May I ask for a roll call?
Commissioner Adrian?
Yes.
Commissioner Landrigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Amirian?
Yes.
Commissioner Estepanian? And Chair Mardian?
Yes. Any more motions?
Okay.
Thank you. Now we'll go back to 6A. Proposed Royal Boulevard Historic District recommendation to City Council regarding establishment of Historic District Overlay Zone.
Okay, the Royal Boulevard is the first historic district that applied to the city for district status under the 2006 ordinance, and it is the furthest along in the process. So today we are here because a petition has been submitted to the Planning Department requesting that the city enable or establish the Historic Preservation Overlay Zone for Royal Boulevard. I just wanted to give you a quick background, just for people who may not remember the entire process. Obviously, Royal Boulevard is well known throughout the area for its beautiful row of palm trees that kind of distinguishes it visually as you come into the Ross Moines neighborhood and come up Royal Boulevard. The initial district that was proposed consists of 30 homes along basically a 2.5 block stretch of Royal between Del Monte and East Mountain at the southeast, and Princess and Arbalest at the northwest. We conducted, the city retained a historic consultant to do a historic resource survey, which is part of the process for historic districts under the ordinance. Historic Resources Group did this report and found that the district is significant under two of the city's criteria. Criterion G, distinctive example of community planning, and Criterion E as a unique location representing an established and familiar visual feature of a neighborhood community. Under the ordinance, you only need to meet one of these criteria, so this neighborhood meets two of them. And at your April 28th hearing, you actually reviewed this survey and voted to approve its findings, therefore approving the finding that it meets these criteria. The report established a period of significance extending from 1926 to 1948, 26 being when development of the area started, and 48 being when any kind of reference to this Royal Ross Moines Village, which was a very specific development period in the area's history, ended. So we have from the beginning of the neighborhood until just after the war as a period of significance. And the survey also found that 22 out of the 30 properties contribute to the historic character of the district, meaning they have not been changed enough to remove their kind of meaning, their historic integrity is intact to kind of tell the story of the district from the period of its construction. 22 out of 30 is 73% of the buildings are contributors, and under the ordinance, it's a minimum requirement of 60%. So the district meets that requirement. And here's a map showing the distribution of the contributors, which are the light-colored, the non-contributors are the light-colored blue properties, and the red properties are the contributing structures. Bringing us up to date, the reason we're having this meeting today is because on June 30th and then subsequently on July 16th, we've received petitions from the proponents of the district and the neighborhood, and the requirements under the ordinance are that the owners of over 50% of the properties in the proposed district sign this petition so that we can move forward with our process, and the owners of 23 homes have signed the petition. So we have 77%, which is well above the 50% that's required. And today your consideration is of the whether this petition meets the requirements, which staff believes it does. We verified that the signatures are appropriate and that we have passed the requirement in the ordinance. I have several letters that I could read into the record. I believe no one is here to read from the Glendale Historical Society, and a homeowner also submitted a letter, if you'd like me to read that.
Yes. Yes, please.
All right. A letter from Arlene Vidor, who's the president of the Glendale Historical Society. Dear Chairman Mardian and Commissioners Adrian and Marion Landrigan and Stefanian, the Glendale Historical Society enthusiastically supports HPC giving a strong recommendation to City Council to unanimously approve the designation of a historic district overlay zone on Royal Boulevard. We are very proud of what Royal Boulevard has accomplished for Glendale and feel that this important step paves the way for other neighborhoods to pursue historic district status. The period residential architecture along Royal Boulevard deserves nothing less than our full protection, and the residents who have worked so long and hard on this process, paying full attention to all requirements and details along the way, are on the way to achieving a milestone that Glendale residents, current and future, can and will appreciate. We thank the residents of Royal Boulevard for their dedication to their community, and we also thank you, the Historic Preservation Commission, for your vision in supporting this watershed initiative. A second letter that came in today is from Patty Silvershire at 1214 East Palmer Avenue. This was directed to the Director of Planning. I was hoping to attend today's meeting in support of the recommendation to City Council regarding the request for establishing a historic overlay zone for the proposed Royal Boulevard Historic District. Unfortunately, I will be unable to attend, so please acknowledge my complete support for this to go to Council. Yay! I hope this will be the first of many historic districts in Glendale. In addition, we have a letter that I do not have a copy of in front of me from one of the homeowners, a previous homeowner in the proposed Royal Boulevard district, who initially opposed the designation of a district, subsequently sold their home and submitted a letter to the city and to the Historical Society stating that they had changed their mind in the course of thinking about this, and though they're no longer a homeowner, they thought it was important to have you understand that some people who have been in opposition to the district have indeed changed their mind and are now in support. And
that's all. Any questions to staff? Okay, I'll go to the public. Elaine Wilkerson.
Good afternoon. My name is Elaine Wilkerson. I'm an applicant for this historic district with my colleague and neighbor, Carol Mary, and she is unfortunately unable to be here today, but she wanted me to reiterate, as I am in my own interest, that we would really encourage you to recommend that council adopt the rezoning for this historic district. We think it has been well supported. Jay actually included all my notes of support, so I won't reiterate them, but I think the survey was very much in support, and the petition that we've submitted shows more than 75% of the neighborhood are in support. And in just a reflection on that comment about the owner of one of the homes that's moved on, he and two of the other houses that signed the original protest have now signed the petition in support of this endeavor, and as such, that is 3 of the 9 original signees. And I think that represents a good effort on the part of the city as well as the neighborhood, because the city's gone out of its way to extend information and provide understanding through meetings and ongoing conversations. Jay's been excellent. I have to say that he has been truly a great resource, and our neighborhood has enjoyed him a great deal. And in the public meetings, some of the neighbors spoke how helpful he was and how helpful we hope he will be when we have a historic district doing our permitting, because we know that he's been very helpful throughout, and we hope that continues. Anyways, I encourage you to make your recommendation favorably to council, and we hope that we are able to achieve 5 votes at council. Because of the previous protest, we will need 5 votes in favor of this historic district. Thank you for your time and your support in the past.
Did you give your address?
I'm 1510 Royal Boulevard.
Thank you.
Any questions to the speaker?
I don't have any questions.
Thank you.
No question.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any others?
Any other speaker on this item? No, I don't see anyone else. We'll close the public hearing. Entertain any questions?
When we began the process and we went through the historic districting guidelines, Did we ever think about the situation where we would have a protest and then changes and how that would then be calculated? Does the calculation change? I'm just very curious about that.
The city, because this is a zone change, the city charter covers all kind of zone change opposition petitions, and it establishes a process that's different than what we have built into for the proponents of a historic district. So basically, anyone who signs an opposition petition, we do the same thing. We verify that they're the owner of record for the property, and then we calculate the frontage of their property within the proposed district. So that's the main difference. If over 20% of the total frontage in the district is in the property of people who oppose the district, it requires a unanimous council vote. So opposition doesn't necessarily impact your vote. It doesn't have any official bearing on what you decide, but instead of the 4/5 majority that's required for a standard zone change without opposition, we need a 5-5 vote at council.
Well, may I continue in my further questioning? Because 77 and 38 exceeds 100%, of course. And now that we have had of the opposition, 3 of the 9 are double signed, does that change the calculation of the frontage of the opposition, or does it stand from the original?
Yeah, the opposition petition came in May of 2007, which was right at the beginning of the process. In theory, people have gotten more information since then, enough that in some cases they've changed their mind, but the city attorney says that that petition stands regardless of that. I've done calculations to kind of see what would happen if it was 6 opponents instead of the 9, because several of the opponents have very large lots with 2 or 3 street frontages. It still comes up over the 20%. I think it was 23 or 24%.
23.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Sir.
When you said there are more frontages, aren't we dealing only with Royal Boulevard? If there is a side street and there is frontage there,
Corner counts.
Yeah, if you look at this map and you see this property, for example, which it's on the corner and it's particularly large frontage on the corner versus some of the other properties that just have the standard 50-foot frontage. By chance or not, I don't know, but several of the opponents seem to have these larger lots with the larger frontages.
that's interesting.
One question, so it's only 7, not 6. You said 6. 7, I calculated 7 as the...
For the opposition?
Opposition.
Then now it's 6. It was originally 9.
Okay.
2 of the people who still live in the district have changed their mind and they signed the petition in favor of the overlay change, and 1 of them moved out of the district. And then the person who moved into their house has subsequently signed in favor of the district.
One other question, when you say verify, how do you verify the signature, just for,
We check the ownership records to make sure that we have the list of owners, but we don't actually verify the signature in any way. We have to accept that that's a legal document and people have signed accurately, but we make sure a lot of homes are in trusts, so we want to make sure if it is a trust that we have all the trustees signing.
Okay. So you rely on this document signed by the owner, that's it, no other...
Yeah, well, we check the assessor's records, and then in cases where we know there's been, assessor doesn't update immediately, so with the new property, we've checked that. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions. Is there time to make a comment or whenever?
You can make a comment.
I just want to start the comment period so we can go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think this is just fantastic. I am very excited and I am dying to come to the point that I can make a recommendation.
You want to see that first district?
Looking for a free lunch again.
Anybody else?
I think it's a wonderful area of Glendale. We have to make our efforts to make sure that this becomes a historic district, and it will be the first one. And also, in my opinion, I think all of us have to go and talk to our council people and urge them to do so. Now that it needs 5 votes, it is us voting only today might not be sufficient, and I think we should do that. I am going to do that. Anyway, having said that, I will just cut it short.
Any other comments?
Well, I would
Thank
like
you.
to say this is truly one of the iconic streets in Glendale. It is the palms just do so much to the entry and to the feel of the district, and I know that you all kept it within the Palm Alley, and I'm just so excited that you received such a large percentage of support. And to me, I think that really speaks well of the guidelines and of Che and of the individuals living on the street really taking a great pride in this. And I, too, have to join in with Ruben and my fellow commissioners here and say I'm dying to send this to council, and I certainly am going to encourage them to vote for this.
So I just ditto what my fellow commissioner just mentioned, Stephanie. I think it's going to be a prelude to many to come, and it's a good one. It's a good example of what we're looking for. So I'm all in favor of it, and I'll push the commission as much as I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herder. Commissioner Stefania?
And I'm on the favor of voting yes, because that's a beautiful area, and the houses are just great, and it's really worth it to save the district as a historical district.
Thank you. Well, I concur with my colleagues. I've lived in Glendale for 34 years, and this street happens to be one of my favorites. And I think today we might make history for the first district, provided that you get the unanimous city council vote. And we'll be all there to support it. Thank you very much for the applicant, staff, on this. I think all of us worked hard on this for quite some time, and we want to see this district come through. Thank you very much. And I'll take a motion.
I move that we recommend to the City Council establishment of a historic overlay zone for the Royal Boulevard Historic District that is proposed.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Adrian,
Yay.
Commissioner Landrigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Amirian,
Yes.
Commissioner Estepanian,
Yes.
and Chair Mardian.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, let's see. We'll go back to our agenda items. 6B, Alex Theater, GR number 20, proposal of treatment of terrazzo and sidewalk and the forecourt.
Okay, this is another case coming back to the commission. This takes us back to January of this year. And at that point, you reviewed several changes proposed for the Alex Theater, including a new theater curtain, a new sounding board that was going to be attached to the rear wall of the stage, and then we also looked at a proposed treatment for the terrazzo. And there was some concern on your part about what the treatment, how it would be applied, how it would be removed in the future, and you asked us to come back with more information. So just to remind you, here's a couple of pictures. Might be hard to see some of the terrazzo, but it has beautiful kind of modern deco-style terrazzo that was installed during the 1940, I don't have that in my head, the renovation that brought us the big light tower and the new marquee and the ticket booth. And so the question was, like, what is the industry standard for the kind of continued maintenance of terrazzo? So working with Jack Alloway and Barry McComb from the Alex, I started investigating some of the terrazzo contractors out in the world and some of the products that they use, and came away pretty much convinced that the specification that you have in your package is pretty much the industry standard for how terrazzo is dealt with. In general, after terrazzo is initially poured, there's generally a sealer that's put on it. And when we first reviewed this, the idea was that Alex was proposing just to put another sealer on top of what was there. That's not really how it's done when this process is undertaken. Basically, what needs to happen is that the existing surface needs to be ground down. It's going to be a very fine grinding using what they say is an 80 grit pad, which is the standard that's used for the floors at LAX and several other installations. Once that grinding is done, there will be repairs made. There may be little tiny holes or cracks in the terrazzo. Those will be filled with a grout that will match the color. You know, this is a multicolor floor surface, so that will match the grout. And then a acrylic sealer will be put on top of it, which what I've seen on site, which I think is a slightly different product, it's very non-visible. It doesn't give it any kind of discoloration, and the product is known that they're proposing is in your package is known for not yellowing, which is one of the issues, that if you put something on that was going to yellow very quickly, that would be an aesthetic problem. What happens in the industry is that, there's a knowledge that no product is going to last on a paving surface forever. So the idea is that what we're establishing here is a process. So in a number of years, whether it's a spot treatment or another full treatment like they're proposing for this one, the Alex will undergo this, and that's pretty much standard with terrazzo flooring. In maybe 500 years, the terrazzo will be ground down to the point where there's not much left, but there's still enough thickness to allow it to go through numerous treatments like this.
Any questions, staff?
And it's called Crystal Seal.
Crystal seal. And that was pretty much talking to different people. It all kept coming back to this product as what a lot of people use.
Commissioner Landry?
I just was going to ask you, because I had looked and it said resistant to cuts and slips, but is there a required friction factor for ADA compliance, and does this comply?
Well, there's a chart in your specifications that shows several the American Standards in Testing, ASTM. Yeah, I can't remember what it stands for. This falls within their kind of range for all of the different criteria they look at, whether it's slip or anything else, and they use a variety of different materials. And I can't remember, it had a 1.0 was the established minimum level, and this met that at all levels. So.
Thank you.
Commissioner Stepanian, you have a question? Mr. Arian?
Just a clarification. So we're looking at how the upkeep is going to be maintained on this terrazzo, is that correct?
Yeah, that was the Commission's initial concern. We didn't have enough information really to talk about.
I don't think I was here.
That's possible. I don't.
Going backwards here.
And which was good, that it kind of sent us back to really understand that what we're proposing is really meeting all the standards. So.
Going back to your comment, Jay, did you say the lifespan was 15 years? Did I hear that right?
No, I don't have a number for the lifespan. I don't think they actually give that, because there's so many different circumstances with different wear patterns and traffic levels.
Okay.
I think in this case, since we know the proposal is going with what's accepted in the industry, I think this will be the first round of seeing what the future is going to hold for retreatment.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Mr. Arian.
Have you seen or checked samples of this material done in real life?
Yeah, the floors of LAX use this material. The refurbished floors of the Griffith Observatory were actually done by the contractor who the Alex is proposing to use. Looking at their track record and the history of the buildings they've worked on, we've probably all seen a lot of examples of their work, and can't see any problems with it.
Okay.
We'll go to the public or anybody from Alex wants to speak or interact. But one question I have, this testing, the Smith Emery Company, it's very old. Make sure we get a product that is recently tested too.
From 98?
Yeah. I'm sure they have some other things added to it.
Okay, I'll try to get that.
Yeah. Thank you. Do we need a motion, or this is just
you don't need to officially vote, but I'm beginning to think on these things where we're dealing with Glendale Register properties, and we bring it to the commission, we should take a vote, and you should get a full staff report so that we just have a strong record of what the commission's thoughts have been.
Okay. I'll take a motion.
Then I would move to approve the proposed sealing of the terrazzo at the Alex.
Second, please.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Adrian?
Yes.
Commissioner Landrigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Amirian?
Yes.
Commissioner Estepanian? And Chair Mardian?
Yes. Item D, 1800 Brand Boulevard, the Sealy Building, GR number 67, review of revisions to previously approved designs for the penthouse and the rear facades.
So you've seen the Seeley's building several times in the last year, and it was recently placed on the Glendale Register by City Council. And since it is now officially on the Glendale Register, we want you to keep abreast of any significant changes that are made to the proposal. This project is under construction as we speak, and the applicants have provided us with some new details that they wanted us to look at, and we thought it was important for the commission to review because this is still a fairly fresh process for you with the Seeley's building. All of the proposed changes, I believe, are acceptable for the building at staff level, and I have a quick presentation to show you some of the work they're proposing. I think you all know the Seeley's building by this point. When you considered this before, there was a proposal to put a new penthouse addition on the roof of the building, which you did approve, and you can see it in these section drawings highlighted in the red box at the top right. This is going to run parallel to San Fernando Road, and it's going to be on top of the main body of the building. It's going to be slightly visible from the right-of-way, especially when you're up on Brand to the north. And the design of it you thought was acceptable. The applicants have come to us with a proposal to make a very modest change to this, which is to put a sunscreen on the south facade to shield the units at the top in the penthouse from the south sun. In the bottom right picture, I've just kind of highlighted what this is very schematic. I just kind of drew a box here to show you that it's going to basically just cantilever off the front of the building. Oh. And here you can see it in plan view. Basically, it's just going to be kind of a lattice-like work of slats running across the front.
Could you go back that once, the previous
Sure.
slide there for a minute? I can't see it from here, but so it's
I'm sorry,
just that
down
very,
here, this area here, this is kind of a section. So this is the north facade. Picture this continuing, and this is the south facade here. What you proposed did not have this part that kind of hangs over the edge. You propose basically just a box, or you approve.
So everything that's beyond the exterior face of that wall is considered.
It's just this. It's basically an overhang to shade the units from the sun. So.
Okay, this is a better view.
And here you have, there's a rendering. Actually, that rendering
Better detail
has it on the lower one. We didn't have electronic copies of that. So that is the first change that the applicants are proposing.
Is it really visible from San Fernando?
No, that's from Glendale.
The actual
Brand.
from Brand. It'll be somewhat visible as you're coming up Brand driving north. You'll be able to see kind of the top part of the unit. Its main visibility is really from the north, and that's what you really focused on when we had the initial hearings.
Okay.
So this is a pretty modest change. Something like this we might not bring back to the commission in the future if an applicant came to us on a project like this, but because this is kind of a very high-profile building and we just had approved the drawings not long ago, we wanted you to have a look at it. A slightly more significant change is at the rear facades, but we also think this is completely appropriate to the building. This is what you saw previously for this. This is the south facade, and then this is kind of a west, a little extension that butts out to the south. And then in this area where this fence is, down here is going to be the proposed new construction for 3 new units with chuck-under parking. So the initial proposal is down at the bottom of this slide, and it was basically just very simple storefront infill. These are going to be kind of artists' studio work units that are going into the building. The new proposal is seen at the top, and it basically calls for these horizontal mullions that are going to run through the glass. So all of the white areas are glazed, all of the darker lines are aluminum, basically storefront framing material. At staff level, we thought that this was a more refined design, a more handsome design, but also we thought it kind of fit with the streamlined modern look of the building without, being too streamlined modern to be appropriate. And if you look at this other facade, this is what you approved previously for the new construction, these 3 units. You had approved these vertical mullions that were going to divide the bays into 4 separate glazed units. And then also please note here, what you approved did not call for any treatment at the second floor of this brick facade. It was going to be a blank brick facade, more or less, with that doorway. This is the new proposal calling for the extension of that kind of horizontal mullion motif running through these units, and then also the 2 new openings punched into that blank brick wall. And basically, we at staff level think this is appropriate because not only is it a handsome design, but it's also at these kind of secondary rear facades none of this work is going to have any impact on the kind of the street facades that people read as, the historic Sears building.
You have a plan or anything?
I don't think I put one. Is there one up there? You have if you look at there's a rendering at the top right that kind of will show it to you. I'm sorry I didn't include it. These wouldn't show up in a plan, this new storefront, so you can see it in that oblique rendering, yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying. It's set back quite a bit from
Yeah.
the street. Okay.
Yeah, there's a parking lot for the project that fronts onto Brand.
All of these windows and mullions are fixed?
No, some will be operable. We have the architects here to answer specific questions, if you would like them to.
No, I was curious.
The railing has changed on that building?
What's that?
The railing for the stairs? Stair configuration?
Let's bring the architects up to answer that question.
Okay, well, we'll bring them up. I just want to, are you finished, Mr. J?
Yeah.
Any other questions to the staff?
No.
Hi, I'm Sarah Grossbeck with Creative Environment.
Can you please fill out a card after?
Yes?
Sure, thank you.
Is that another question?
Yeah, this is...
The question about the railing.
Yeah, I had a question, actually. I'll start with my other colleagues if they have any questions before I go.
No, I'm okay with the mullions and windows having them open. I was just curious.
They're mostly fixed. It would be primarily only the doors that would open.
No.
Any of the panels that show doors, those are operable.
So the horizontal mullioned glass
Is fixed.
is all fixed.
And as far as the stair configuration, I think as we further develop the layout in the parking and with the landscaping, just kind of how the access would be to those stairs changed slightly. So we had to alter the location of the entry of the stairs. So it did slightly change based on that.
The railing changed too, or is it the same proposed railing as original?
Well, we were looking at a little bit different approach on the railings as well. I think we just hadn't quite developed some of the.
That looks like solid railing versus the
Screen.
Right. We were looking on the balconies having it's like a stainless steel mesh,
Okay.
and then having actual steel panels on the stairs that go up to the new building.
So they would be solid.
Yeah, partially solid and then partially mesh. Where you see through, there would be a screen.
On these balconies that extend from the south facade, that would be a stainless steel mesh?
Yes.
Would that be the same mesh that the commission saw before?
Yes.
We saw fairly open mesh?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mr. Amiri.
What triggered the idea behind changing the way you had the windows to these horizontal ones?
I think it was just something that hadn't been developed enough at the time that we initially presented it, and as we got into further detailing, this felt aesthetically nicer.
I have some comments to make, but they are not questions, so...
Yeah, go ahead, we'll just ask.
I have a question.
Mr.
I have a question. So now the new, the annex portion that you're adding to the building with the new fenestration and whatnot, the material for that, is that going to be a typical material that you're using on the rest of the building?
For what portion?
The revised window material, or the design, and the new building, the existing portion.
The red brick section.
Yeah, including the red brick section. Everything that you're changing now, does that match, is that consistent with the existing?
Well, what's existing on the front side of the building is an older style storefront, and in that case, we will be, any part that we have to repair, whatever, it'll be identical to what's there. On the rear side, however, that would be more of a standard style storefront with aluminum. I think that's what we had discussed in the past on the penthouse level, and on all the areas that are new, it would be a slightly larger profile on the storefront, because that's...
And the material would be the same, would be aluminum?
Yeah, just an aluminum.
It's all going to be aluminum?
Yeah.
The color will all be the same?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Stefani?
Thank you.
Commissioner Stefani? Any question? Okay, thank you. Oh, I had a question, I'm sorry. Some
Mr.
changes.
Chairman, you better get your act together.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
He's in a hurry. This lady's got things to do.
Okay. The other change that occurred, I noticed, is on your site plan. You provided now tandem parking and grass street, reduced the landscape area. If I'm not, is that another change?
Well, we did add more parking based on a parking study that we had done, and that was the amount of parking that was recommended in that study.
All changes for landscape and parking, this is in the San Fernando Road redevelopment area. So the Glendale Redevelopment Agency is working, and the Planning Department are working with the applicants for those kind of parking issues and the non-historic aspects of the project.
Just for your information, you're missing the handicap parking here now.
Well, we're looking at having to do valet, and so the requirements are different based on that.
Are you done?
I'm done. Thank you very much. Any comments? Public hearings? Anybody else wants to speak on this matter? I see none. We'll close it.
Yeah, I have some issues with this new horizontal windows. If you look at the rest of the building, both on Brand and San Fernando facades, the windows are totally different from the proposed ones. The old windows at the new addition, they are not actually good, but in general, they are in the same, they follow the same rhythm as the rest of the building. These new ones, though they look good, but they are not in sync with the rest of the building. Just look at the north elevation on page A51, and you look at south elevation on the same page. These are two totally different buildings. Though south elevation by itself looks good, those horizontal windows, but it's not by itself, it's part of a building. I would have difficulty of okaying this, to tell you the truth. Though, as I said, the old new addition was not very handsome either, but still it was, for me, I might be in minority, I don't know, was still acceptable. This one is pretty, but it's not part of Silis. That's my comment. Unless I am convinced otherwise.
Commissioner Landrigan?
Well, I agree with Commissioner Marion, because the horizontality of the other facade does seem to not have a context to the front and the other sections of this. I agree, I thought it was very interesting, but it does seem to me to just assume another building or another space, and contextually we try to tie a building together in its design, and to me that seems to not have been thought out on this design.
Just.
I have a
I am out of order.
Mr. Chair, I'll come back.
sorry, I
Go
don't
ahead,
interrupt-
Mr. Adrian.
Am I interrupting anybody?
No, he'll come back.
Sorry if I am.
He'll come back.
I have a question.
Yes,
I have a question for Jay, though,
Okay.
before I say anything more. I was under maybe the illusion that the redevelopment agency is handling design on this project. We're just sort of a
You were under illusion.
it wasn't my illusion.
An
maybe.
illusion, but only one.
All right.
For Glendale Register Properties, this commission has design review authority.
Okay. I want to just sort of mention a couple of things. I do see, and I saw that when I asked you the question there. Could you come back up to the podium for a moment? I'm going to ask a question. Is that all right if are we still open?
It's okay.
Generally,
Next.
it's not supposed to happen.
Am I-
because this
am
is
I out of
Whether or not
it's
the
closed.
public hearing is closed,
Yeah.
unless she'll have a few minutes
She can
later.
still answer a question. All right.
No,
I have
that's
to
not the
open
way it
the public
works.
hearing.
Okay, well, okay. I don't want to mess
She
that
can
up.
come back. Let's
You come back later then, okay.
Well, she can come back. We'll give you a
Correct
few
me if
minutes.
I'm wrong.
later.
I was
Commission,
I understand the vein of Commissioner Marion's comments, and I had the same thing when I first saw that the consistency is going. You know, you're losing that, what was originally approved on brand in the front of the building, and now you're going to something, you're departing from that. You're going horizontally versus maybe something more verticality. I'm only giving you the benefit of the doubt. In my opinion, it's nicer, it's a little more contemporary perhaps, and I like that. I was justifying it in my own mind that because the building is set back so far from the street and there's a parking lot in front of it, that some of that continuity is diminished. So I was going along with let's leave it because I like it too. But it is a bit inconsistent what is in the front. Now, if there's a possibility of bringing if you're sort of tied in with that design, and you kind of have a little bit of romance with that feature, maybe you can introduce something. Perhaps I was looking at your elevations here. Perhaps something on the lower level, you could introduce some more of that horizontal factor into it, and maybe Mr. Marion and maybe some of my other colleagues will think that's a possibility, and this would fly very nicely if you could do that, I think, because you have nothing that takes the window treatment back to the back part of that new addition in the front. That's what I'm saying. That was very clear or not, but in other words, your ground level windows are large enough. They're spatially large enough. The openings are big, where you could introduce possibly some more horizontal material, and that could carry back to the back part that you're introducing the revised portion.
Okay.
Chairman Marion, if I may interject a few thoughts. This came up last time the Commission considered the proposals and modifications to this particular building, a kind of interest in sort of unifying the design all around. And I think it's worth bearing in mind that the history of this building is that it's actually a series of buildings, 3 separate buildings and structures built over a series of time. And then, in fact, some of those buildings were subsequently modified quite dramatically. And so part of the history of this building is, in fact, that it is a series of separate buildings that were never one design that was sort of pulled together in one unified vision. That came up last time, so I think as you consider these changes, you might want to bear in mind, remember that fact. Also, I think the question in front of you is these particular modifications versus the proposal that you had previously approved.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos.
And if I could throw in some of the logic behind our review of the project, is that when we were looking at these as secondary facades that have never historically had openings, we saw an opportunity to introduce kind of a modern design element, a contemporary design element into the project. If we go back to the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, there's generally a recommendation that you differentiate new work from historic work, so that you can clearly, a layman with a somewhat educated eye could look at the building and say, okay, this is newer, this is older, and it all comes together. When I was reviewing this, I did think about that and realized that the 2 facades rarely are visible in context with each other, and that the new facades are also going to be screened by a green screen that's kind of screening the parking lot. So I took all of those things into consideration, thinking about, the goals of the project to be kind of an arts community, having a contemporary feel at these facades, without having an impact on the historic character of the historic street facades.
Thank you. Commissioner Stepanian, you have any questions?
Well, I agree with the
comments?
idea that, the looking at the whole project by itself, there's no continuity in the window. It had been kept the way it is, and then these are modified with the horizontal elements, and there's no continuity in the elevations. And looking overall, if feel that this is a totally different project than the other two elevations. And I would rather have something like a continuity on the windows than something totally different than what it is suggested.
Thank you. You had another question, Mr.?
May I just
Sure, go ahead.
take
Go ahead, Mr.
Commissioner.
Commissioner.
I appreciate the fact that Sealy is a combination of several buildings done during several different years. But at the end, this is one harmony. One building, it should have some harmony. It's like somebody dressing and having a red shirt and a purple tie and one glass and the other one no glass. Just totality, because we dress at 8 o'clock, we put our shirt at 8:05 and our socks at 8:06, so they can be all totally different. I don't buy that. This is not going to get my vote. I think it's not working. The old one was working, so I would just say nothing more than that.
Go ahead, Commissioner Landrigan.
And I would like to concur, and I'd like to just remind staff that there is no other design review than us. And if it is the first part of it, I totally agree with the Secretary of the Interior Standards that you don't try to mimic the original one. But the original design here was significantly different. It was vertical, now it's gone to horizontal, and it's very horizontal. I mean, the horizontality of it is overwhelming, I would have to say, to the point that it is overbearing and draws to itself and takes away from the other design there that was much more in keeping with the brick building on the back. And I don't mind it being modern, I just feel that the use of the mullions at this time has created a whole different style than what was presented to us. And as the design review board for this, to me, I think that direction has changed the whole tenor of the back of that building.
Thank you. I concur with my colleagues. I think this is a totally different version. And if you notice on the elevations, can you go back? You see that elevation has the walls on the side of the frame, the glass. Now you have very thin column-like, and which increases that horizontal image. You see the rest of the building has walls on each side of the...
Yeah. The opening's gotten bigger.
The opening has gotten bigger.
Yeah.
And I think maybe, I don't know if my colleague, reducing, I'm not trying to say this is the best solution, but reducing the horizontal, would that be something that the board, because it seems like it's too many, and it makes it much, much busier than what it was before. I do agree, though, the building before was a little more elegant, more in keeping with the style of the, and I appreciate the Secretary's standard. I know they should be different. It was different. It was different before. So, and I think I'll go back to the original one. The other thing I want to mention is the screen change from the previous submittal. The screen in the front where the fence is.
Not that I know of. It was going to be a mesh material.
Okay. But I do have also problems with east elevation and south elevation on the new building. It just says new CMU block wall. Is it colored? Is it gray? Is it, because that's going to be like another,
The original,
you might not see it.
The original proposal called for this to be finished like the penthouse. I don't know if that's changed. It's block?
White.
Because it shows block in here.
He's looking at this.
And I think if you're going to use block, maybe make it colored. Colored block.
Oh, no.
More in the brick.
Or more in the brick tone, you know. Because then otherwise, then we have so many different colors, gray, red.
And dissimilar materials.
Dissimilar materials.
Textures.
Those walls wouldn't be visible from any.
I understand.
Well, they would be to some
They would be. But I don't want to create a dollar. I
I believe
bring
we're
you
talking
back
about
if you have any.
this framing material.
Excuse me? Can she come back?
Sure.
To answer a question.
Let us not go the other side and
Okay, let's finish our comments, then we'll, and that's the other problem I have, is the treatment on the block. Other than that, I think the windows should stay vertical. And I concur with my colleagues. I don't think I don't think this makes any difference to so much to the user or anything else. I mean, unless, go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chair, I could just make another comment on the new addition and the opening in the brick wall in the center. I wouldn't mind seeing a rethinking on this glass, on the windows. I wouldn't mind seeing that, but not in the family of these horizontals that is proposed. I'm not saying how to do it, but I wouldn't mind
You
seeing
want to see another alternative?
If they want to improve it, I would be very glad to see it.
So basically, you would allow the other proposal that you've already approved to stand if they decided to go back to that. If they want to come back with another proposal reflecting your comments to reduce the horizontality, possibly bring it closer to what was originally proposed that you approved, we could bring it back for another hearing.
Okay.
One more point of clarification, if I may. Was there any thoughts about the overhang on the south side of the penthouse? So far, your discussions focused on the windows.
I don't have a problem.
I don't have a problem
I
with
don't have a
that.
problem with that. I think that's
It might be
that's
useful to
fine. I think
separate
that's-
that.
Actually, I think that introduction of this is helpful.
Okay,
Sort of softens that.
Just one other kind of point of clarification on actually pulling up the old drawings. I believe the new annex, as we've referred to it, that you were saying is concrete block. In the original drawings, it shows it out to be plaster,
Correct.
not concrete, exposed block.
And will it continue to be plaster? Or will it be exposed?
If your original
See,
decision
yeah.
stands, then yes, it should continue
Yeah,
to
I
be
don't
plaster.
remember
That's
what
what
the
you
other
approved
side looked
previously.
like.
Well, we are going with the original decision at this time.
Yeah, but
so-
Outside of the eyebrow, right?
If the applicants decide that they want to come back with a new window proposal, we'll make sure that the cladding, we'll make sure everything's consistent, and you're looking at all of the new proposals if anything else has changed.
Let me ask my colleagues, or we're still in discussion. If my colleagues, I mean, I mentioned that if you are in, kind of like you're tied into that horizontal feel, and as I mentioned to you earlier, if you could introduce that into the Grand Boulevard elevations, and even the doors off of, in your north elevation down there, those are centered in your storefront, and everything in the new annex is offset. The doors are all offset. So perhaps there's another alternative, to make this work, is if you were to do something at the ground level on the other side of the building to bring this into contact. It might work.
That's a kind of tail dog wagging situation.
It could be looked at that way.
When we've looked at this, we really felt it was important, if this was going to be on the Glendale Register and eligible, that we retain kind of the historic features of those facades.
Okay.
So we wouldn't want to go backwards.
Yeah, that's the bad part. It could disturb the integrity of the building too much, so. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm ready for a motion.
Yes, I'll make a motion to,
Excuse me, do we get a rebuttal time for the applicant before you make the motion? Do we?
I think it's fair, certainly.
It's fair. Would you like to come up?
Well, just a couple of things. As far as the material on the new building, in altering the window configuration, we've filled the whole space from column to column. So there's no surface on that side that would, it would just be the actual columns and the windows. So the block would only be from the back sides, actually. There you would have some surface on we filled the whole opening when we detailed out the structure. We just weren't that far along at that time with how the structure was going to work. We're working with more closely now with the engineer on that.
Your fascia would be?
Right. That would just be, it's like a concrete and steel framing, and then the block is infill, which you don't see anywhere on this side. And then my other comment was only just on the design being so horizontal. I think, I guess I didn't envision it quite that extreme. I think when you're looking at it on paper and all you're seeing are those lines, then that's all you feel. Where once we start changing the configuration, I think overall it's still the same materials. they're still the same size openings, and I don't think that the impact of the shape of the window cuts is like as strong when you
Let me ask
get
you.
in. And
Let me ask you. I'm sorry, I forgot your first name.
Sarah,
Sarah. What would happen if you took those door openings that you've added there and you put them in the middle of that? I guess that's a space, right? One space?
I'm not sure which door openings.
Any one of them. I mean,
They're all flush to the right.
they're all offset.
Right.
Now, if you put them in the middle,
Well,
example, did you?
the reason they're not in the middle is because when you come into the space, it has just to do with the
Against
circulation
the
of
wall,
the space.
it opens up
It
against
makes-
the wall.
Yeah, it kind
Open
of.
it- okay.
Those are living units.
I see.
So
Okay,
it's more usable space if you.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion, if it's time.
I just want to make one comment to staff before we make sure we make that the rear elevations from block to stucco. The reason I'm questioning is because if you leave it any other material, the finish in the corners will be really terrible. We need to keep it consistent, but I'll take a motion.
I would just move that this new proposal is not accepted, and our old approved design is what? Go ahead.
You could also break down you're approving the sunscreen at the penthouse, you're not approving the new additions at the lower floors.
I recommend that we approve the sunscreen on the south elevation, and
No changes to the...
no changes to the old approved drawings,
Elevations.
elevation.
I will second that.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Adrian,
Yes.
Commissioner Landrigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Emerian,
Yes.
Commissioner Stepanian,
Yes.
and Chair Mardian.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Yeah. New business? You don't need a break here?
No.
New business? Any new business?
Sorry.
New business? 7, none?
New business.
Any, number 8, planning department updates?
Jay didn't respond. New business.
Any
No, there's no new business.
No new
That would be agendized if there
Okay.
were, so.
Planning department update and informational briefings?
No updates this time?
Any comments from the commissioners?
Yes, I do. I do have a comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to,
We'll have to
it's not a
let's
comment, it's
agendize
an
that comment.
information thing. Our colleague Stephanie Landrigan is appointed as the chairman of, Director of Landscape of Architecture Program at UCLA.
Extension.
UCLA Extension. I just wanted to announce that and say that I am very happy and proud, happy that my colleague gets this kind of position, and proud to serve with you. And I wanted everybody to know that.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
I
much.
didn't know that.
Any other comments? I have one comment. I want to thank staff for Mr. J, for the Rock Haven tour.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
I have one comment.
Good comment.
I'd like to just thank Jay in general for all of his hard work. Since I've been on the board, I've been very impressed.
Thank you very much.
I want to say that from the bottom of my heart, and I'm sure my colleagues will agree with me.
I agree.
Speaking of Rock Haven, Mr. Chairman, may I just ask a question? Is there going to be any public or interdepartmental discussion on that property? I would like to participate and see if we can get some art-related activity over there. It's a good opportunity, and I don't know how our voice can be heard in this megapolis of Glendale.
In this megalopolis, there's going to be tremendous time to talk about Rock Haven. There'll be a lot of public meetings. One of the city's goals is to bring as many people into the process as possible, so find out whose ideas, an arts facility, whatever else, a lot of things we haven't even thought of yet. So there will be a team of planning department staff, parks department staff, other departments will be involved, and we'll all be looking at Rock Haven and having many public meetings.
Go ahead, Commissioner Landrigan.
Mr. Platt, would the city be putting Rock Haven on the historic register? Or
Excuse
putting
me,
it in?
if I may, since this item is not agendized, I think we're getting a little bit in the tricky place that the city attorney would just warn us. But let me just tell you this, both the city's management and the city council are really aware of the interest in the arts in the Rock Haven site, and definitely the Historic Preservation Commission will be very much aware and in the loop, and we will keep you informed and agendize this on a regular basis when it's time and we have more information to give you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That puts the end of the discussion.
Kibosh.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I second it.
All right.
Thank you.
Having you.
Thank you.